Hi, I'm Jessica, and with me is James today.
Delighted to be here. Thanks for everyone for attending.
So, yeah, we are going to be talking about digital citizenship and how to empower students in a slightly different way of looking at how to teach this in your classroom or at your school. So, some of our outcomes, just so you know what to expect. So, we are going to talk about what is digital citizenship, understanding why it's important, the psychology of learning it, and then we're going to give you some digital lessons that you can try, just like as little, warm ups or parts of a class lesson. So let's actually start with what is digital citizenship? This is actually a really interesting question because it's always evolving. When we first started talking about digital citizenship years ago, I don't think we even understood what the internet would be like today, or that we could communicate on something as simple as even a watch that we have on. So the way that students and even adults are working with it is so different from what we used to think it would be like. So when we first started to try to teach it, we had different standards. We had access, communication, commerce, literacy, etiquette, law, rights, responsibilities, health, wellness, and security. And that's a lot. And something that, we tend to, as educators, sometimes we want to teach everything. And what we find out is by teaching everything or attempting to teach everything, we've taught a lot of nothing. We are, a mile wide and an inch deep.
Mhm.
So starting off with all of those different standards may have sounded good, but what we have come to realize is that it might not be about all the tech that it's behind it. Instead, it might be about the human beings. And even as late as 2020, ISTE, they changed theirs from encompassing all 9 standards, because that's what that was those, 9 standards from ISTE. And, they've mellowed it down to, 4 or 5 standards. And same thing with common sense media. They went from having, ton of standards to now just concentrating on these 6 standards. So, it's really important to look at that human element. And we really want to teach kids not to rely on the tech to protect them, but instead to rely on themselves. And so that's why we're about empowering them and different ways to empower them. Okay. So James, I'm just going to ask you a question real quick. So if I were to ask you, how many hours do you think the average teen spends online a day? And by the way, you guys can answer this in the chat too, if you want to take a stab at this.
The
So
average teen.
yeah, and not counting school.
Not not counting school in COVID. So we
That's
have to
right.
take
That's
into
right.
account
Yep.
that it's COVID.
Yep.
So I'm going to guess, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours a day, something like that.
Okay.
What
All
do you
right.
think?
All right.
How'd I
So
do?
yeah. So it depends on
Oh,
if you're talking about older teens, then you're a little far off. So
oh.
yeah. So
Well, it's
so
been a while. It's been a decade since I
okay.
had
All
teens
right.
at home. So
So so teens between the ages of 13 and 19, they actually spend on average 7 hours and 22 minutes. Again,
wow.
not counting school, engaged with their technology for the day. Now, if they're tweens, which is between the ages of 8 and 12, it's still over 4 hours, but it's 4 hours and 44 minutes is what their average is, which actually makes me think a lot about my son, because I have a 10-year-old and I'm like, wait a minute, does he spend almost 5 hours on his technology a day? So they're on that technology. And this is another big why digital citizenship. And to even add, I'm a mathematician in my background, and so I like my stats. So to add to these stats, not only do they spend a lot of time on TV or on their technology, but 29% of them they actually sleep with their devices. So it's not so much, I'm going to tuck in my teddy bear. I'm going to tuck in my device, right next to me.
This may be of interest. May interject. This might
Uh-huh.
be of interest even for our adult audience, but more than a decade ago in the lab, we did a quick survey of users of smartphones, and smartphones were relatively new back then.
Yeah.
And 19% of the users, it was the first thing they did in the morning. Now,
Yep.
just think about that as an audience for 1 second.
Mhm.
Of the many things that you could do immediately on waking up in the morning, that you would put 19% of them would say reach for their smartphone. And that
Yeah.
was almost a decade ago. So
Yeah.
this doesn't surprise me in
No,
some
and
respects.
that's the thing too, is that we would like to think that like as soon as you hit the age of 18, that it's just this student problem, it's just this kid problem. And then I'm 18 and now I'm mature and now suddenly I know how to handle my technology, but I don't. 12% of adults actually sleep with their device
Mm.
and yeah, and 74% of them actually now say they're within a hand's reach of it. And so it's not just something that goes away. And so the idea is that we need to talk about the fact that this isn't necessarily an addiction issue we're dealing with. Maybe this is just our real
It's a
life.
behavioral issue.
Yeah, it's a behavioral issue. So it's not surprising. And I'm part of that 74%, by the way. I could easily reach for my device in the morning. Not that I ever would, of course. So then we also get into why digital citizenship, the good and the bad. So first of all, there's a lot of good with technology. And we have to understand that, especially in the world that we're living in right now. If it wasn't for technology, we would not be on this.
Mhm.
We wouldn't be speaking to you guys and the audience out there. It helps us to participate in this positive world as long as we're active in this positive world. So, and it allows us to create this online identity. For students, it gives them this first voice that they've ever had, and they get to learn from others and they get to experience culture without even leaving their house if they want. So it's this amazing thing that they get to have in their life. So they use it for learning, they use it to teach others, they use it to have fun. And then there's also the bad that's there. So it's, when you sometimes when you turn on the news, that bad is what is being shouted out at you. And that's because it's a lot easier to concentrate on the bad than it is the good. But we do have to understand that there's a balance and to be mindful of that balance. So we have things like we have, fake websites. So like this one right here is, a website about the dangers of dihydrogen monoxide, which is H2O. So dangers of water. We have misinformation out there. We have, digital drama, people just trying to, post stuff for a reaction. We do have things like cyberbullying. So there is that bad out there. And it's important to start understanding these things and for students to start understanding ways to avoid it. And the fact that they don't always have to go run to that trusted adult to see what's good or bad, but that they can start making those decisions for themselves.
Well, why can't we just teach students some rules? And this is a question we've all struggled with. So, as a fellow educator, I teach in the post secondary system, but even students who are in our age category will not follow the rules simply because they're told to. And I might argue, as teachers and educators, we might reflect on our own behavior. Just because we know what's good for us or we're told what we should do doesn't mean we will do it. So, we at CyberCon IQ have spent a lot of time studying online behavior. And what we've discovered is it's not random. And we, excuse me, we spend our time primarily in three areas of psychology. So we're not interested particularly in biopsych and some of the things to do with that. And we're not actually into the diagnostic areas of psychology. What we're into is the developmental, cognitive, and the social and personal side. And in particular, what we're interested in and what is important is that online behavior is not random. And once you understand that it's not random, and this goes back to something that's really critically important, which is the psychology big five or the five factor model of personality theory. So what we did is we took the work of Gordon Allport, and many of you as educators would be very familiar with personality theory. And it's a very stable part of developmental and social psychology. What we do know is that Allport identified at the beginning some 200 some odd traits that eventually became the five that we rely on today. And over this last 80 years or so, since the 1940s, we have discovered that they are incredibly insightful for people because it offers a framework and a language for them to understand how they instinctively behave. Now, we've also discovered something in our own research with both adults and with students, and that is that there are three factors that are particularly important in terms of our online behavior. And this ties directly to how we teach students about digital citizenship. And because we're all unique, that also suggests that there are unique ways we need to teach this. And so, like everything else we do in the classroom, I think that we are on the cusp of helping you understand as teachers our perspective that we need differentiated instruction in exactly the same way in digital citizenship we do in any other part of the curriculum we teach. So it's an improvement in our own professional development and view to become more sophisticated in how we do this. So what we've discovered, and I think it's important to spend just a little bit of time on the theory, not a lot, but a little bit. So using the standardized model, we have determined that only 3 of the 5 factors actually play out in how we behave online. And it's not just our research. There are many, many articles talking about this. And thankfully, we've been able to put aside the idea that either extroversion or neuroticism, which are a couple of really interesting points. The extroversion introversion thing is not exactly what people think it is, but for the moment, let's just assume that that debate is caught up because extroverts like that's not me, clearly, right? I'm an introvert, right?
Of course,
Okay.
of course, yeah.
So I just want to check. But
We see it.
extroverts believe that the entire world should operate the way they operate and that they're clearly superior, and they really don't understand introverts, and introverts just want everybody else to shut up. So basically, we can leave aside that debate because it doesn't actually play out in how they behave online. And neuroticism is a little bit complicated and makes people uncomfortable. So the good news is the 3 that are left, conscientiousness, agreeableness, and openness to experience, as you can see, they do explain almost 100% of our online instincts. Not only is it not random and predictable, but they're predictable in very different patterns. So we have a way of assessing, and it's a very simple tool. And the tool allows anybody to locate themselves in one of these 4 quadrants. And the quadrants are interesting. You can see down in the bottom left that one of the quadrants has a very dominant high factor of conscientiousness that overwhelms all of the other 2. So those folks have a particular way of behaving. And once we understand how they behave online, we also understand how they can become vulnerable or be made vulnerable. So we've explored the sensitization of what makes them vulnerable to particular kinds of threats, particular kinds of disinformation or misinformation, and how that's delivered. So that's powerful. On the other side, and fair disclosure, Jessica, I'm going to show them mine since we will eventually learn yours.
Yeah.
Up in that top right corner, that's me. I'm actually completely dominated by an openness to experience. I like to challenge the status quo. I like everything that's new and different. I don't sweat the details. I hire amazing people like Jessica to do all of that, so I don't have to worry about it. So you see the 2 polar opposites across those 2 dimensions. The more interesting styles, and both Jessica and I love what we do because it gives us a chance to learn more about people and to engage with people about themselves. Who doesn't want to learn something about themselves? The other 2 are very interesting quadrants because they're a blend of the 3. And in different strengths and different ratios, we see different elements of how these personality traits are expressed in their behavior. And particularly the folks down in the bottom right are a fascinating quadrant. We absolutely love them. So we've added playful names to this to make it a little less theoretical and a little more accessible and interesting to your students. So this is an actual shot of the actual graphics that we use inside our tool to help students understand this. Now, important for you to know, this is not designed to make anybody feel bad because all 4 of these quadrants are valuable, but they're also all vulnerable. There's not a single quadrant that doesn't have some vulnerability, but they also all value. So we write them with a very positivist view, right? As psychologists and educators,
Right.
we want people to feel good about the revelations they get. So the discovery process for students in the classroom is to lead them to an understanding not only of their own style, which is great, but also the style of others. And in the focus groups, Jess, you were there.
Yeah, they just the kids love this, and they start realizing when we teach them about the styles, they start realizing what their classmates are and what they are.
Yeah.
Even before they get to the assessment, they're like, you know what? I think that I'm a risk maker, or, they'll say, hey, you know what? Susie Q, that's her name now.
Right.
She's definitely a risk breaker or something like that. So it's great for them because they start seeing their own psychology behind it. And so, by the way, James did say, he's that risk maker. I am a risk maker too, maybe a more moderate
Yes.
approach, but, and that's also what's really interesting is that for adults, we divide up between the strong and the moderate.
Mhm.
So like I'm a moderate risk maker. James, I'm assuming,
Strong.
yeah, he's strong risk maker. But for students, because their personalities are still developing,
Still emerging.
that's
Yep.
right. So what you'll see is they're going to start out stronger. And then as we mature and we get older, then we start to, go
Moderate.
closer
Yes,
to the moderate, which then just makes me think, how strong were you
oh,
as
can
a
you
risk
imagine?
maker? I'm so sorry.
All I
should
want to tell you is
apologize.
you did not want to be one of my grade 10 teachers. So, all right. So with that, Jess, I'm going to turn it back to
All
you because I
right.
think you're going to tell us now why education is such a key part of
Absolutely.
this.
Yes. And to give you guys some ideas on the different quadrants too for students in your classroom. So if you notice, you have the risk tolerant and the risk breaking students. So those are our risk makers. Like I said, those are us. So that's going to be that student that kind of, they think that may be their teacher number two, right? And then that risk breaker quadrant, then they're the students that if you assign homework or if you assign them to do something, they're absolutely going to do it. They're not going to question that. That's absolutely great. Those risk takers, because of the way they see stuff, they're going to be those students in your classroom that, let's say they like your class. So maybe they're in my class and they love my class. So
Of
they're
course,
gonna,
they would
of
love your
course.
class.
So
Yes.
they're going to work really, really hard in there. But then they come to me and they show me their report card and I'm like, what's happening in this other class? And their reason for that lower grade or not doing so well is, oh, I don't really like it. And then you have those risk shakers, and they might be the ones that come into class and they studied their butt off for the test that day, but they're going to tell everybody else, oh, I didn't study for this. I hope I do good, right? So I want you guys to imagine those different types of students in your class. And I know you guys all have them because I had them as well. And of those 4 personalities, I want you to ask yourself, which one of those is going to follow rules when you give them the set of rules? Okay. And there's only one that's going to follow a set of rules, right? And it's going to be those risk breakers. The others are going to have certain reasons why they won't or don't, and for whatever that is. And so that's one of the things that we concentrate on is we really believe in differentiation so we can make sure we take all personalities and all styles into account. We also think that in order to differentiate, you should have learning by doing. Students should investigate their instructional, their instruction that they're given. So we don't want to present them with those rules because it's not going to work for everybody. We want them to use their background knowledge. We want them to use their investigative nature and of course, have fun with it as well. So let's kind of talk about what we see as our digital citizenship standards. Okay, so we break it up in 5 different parts. So we have aware, and under aware, that's where we deal with security, so passwords, stuff like that. We have balance because, heaven knows we all need some tech balance in our life. We have caring. That's where our cyberbullying digital drama is.
Are they picking up the pattern yet, do you think?
I don't know. I hope so. I hope so. It's really subtle. So, so if you're not, don't worry. It might be the ABCs. And then we have defining. So this is about your identity. And this one is so interesting to me because, students sometimes don't realize what their online identity actually is, and they don't see how much they're sculpting it or how much other people sculpt
and they
it.
don't see the danger of their digital footprint either, which we're going to talk about.
It just goes away, right? You post something online, that's just going to go away.
Or they believe, it's fascinating. We live in a post-private world. We know that. But, students have this bizarre halo effect where they believe even in a public network on a public tool, they're operating in a bubble, and they get quite irate when they realize that people that they did not know were there could see it, despite the fact it's public content. And their outrage is hilarious. We've seen this time after time after time. It's pretty funny. Well, what were you doing looking at that? Well, anybody can see it. It's fascinating.
It's just so different. And they're so willing to, give out this information, ask you participate in stuff,
They live their lives out loud and proud and
they absolutely
online.
do. Yep.
Absolutely.
And the thing is that that's going to translate that. Again, that doesn't just, if they're doing that when they're young, that's not going to just stop as soon as they hit that age of 18. It's not going to be like, oh, eureka moment, all done. It's just going to continue. Right. So when we educate children, we educate our future adults, right? So you guys all know that because we're all educated.
That's right.
Yep. And then the last one is called educated. And this is where we delve into some digital literacy. We talk about the credibility, which is fun. I'm going to say I love them to every single one of them. I'm going to be like, oh, I love this one too. So it's just, it's a really important thing for students to be able to understand that what they see and what they to know what's real and fake there. So let me go into it. So what I'm going to do here, is apparently I'm going to skip ahead is what I'm going to do because I can't control a PowerPoint. Oh, okay, go back. Give me 1 second. Technical difficulties. It's the human.
Mhm.
I'd blame the
The human factor.
technology. It's the human factor. Go
While
ahead.
you're doing that, so I'm gonna let people know. So we of course have this, I'm gonna let people know. So we of course have this available as a curriculum enrichment tool, and it can be delivered and used in your classroom. But I do know that we have a couple of colleagues watching the chat. So if you are intrigued by what you're seeing and you decide you'd like to explore this, let us know. Because you've attended our session today, we can send you a coupon code so you can go through the system for free. We're not going to make this a sales pitch, and that's not the point of the webinar. It's really to educate you. But if you're intrigued by what you see, throw your email and let us know where you are, and one of our folks will reach out and send you a code. We promise nothing else. We're not going to use your information for any other purpose, but if you're interested, let us know, because we'd be delighted to let you have access so you can experience the system. And I think when you go through it, you'll begin to get little bits and pieces of what we're talking about today. They'll fill in in your mind. We'll connect your dots.
Yeah,
So anyway, go ahead,
exactly.
Jess. Now you ready?
All right, I'm ready. Got my screen up. So it worked.
Don't touch it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not touching hands off, right? Okay. So first of all, I love making people into students. So James, you are my victim, volunteer victim, whichever word you would like to describe. So you see on there, you have two different passwords. Okay.
I do.
And what I would do, so in the classroom, again, if only a quarter of our students are willing to follow the rules, handing students a list of rules that says, this is what you have to do to make a strong password. This is going to be the best or worst way of doing it. They're not going to care, right? I mean, because they don't follow the rules anyhow. So what I like to do is with activities like this, I like to let them use their background knowledge and just learn as they go. So here we go. We have two passwords, and what I want you to tell me, looking at those two passwords, and you guys can put it in the chat too if you want to play along. Which password do you think is the most secure?
So this is kind of tricky. So what does our audience think? So let me just say a couple of things. First of all, it would probably be Queen fan forever or something, so never mind Eagles. So let me just because
California, it's a lovely place.
Well, no, I was actually thinking about the Philadelphia Eagles, but let's not excite our crowd.
See, okay, I don't do sports.
So what's that?
Oh, we have left. Okay, anybody else?
Well, all right. So I'm gonna go out on a limb and say you're trying to trick me.
Oh, I would never trick somebody.
Oh, yes, you would. I think you're trying to trick me because I too am inclined a little bit to the left because of all those sneaky little characters, because this is the squiggly stuff they make us put in to keep us safe.
Okay.
But I also know as a professional that the longer the password, the harder to crack. So I'm thinking I'm going to go, you know what? I feel like I'm on a game show.
That's right. You are.
Jessica?
You win $1 million.
Jessica,
right.
I don't need to call a friend. I'm going to go right.
Okay, you're going to go right. So you're going against the crowd. So
even though it's the Eagles.
So even though it's the Eagles. Again, go music instead of sports. It's all better.
That's true.
All right. So that's what students would also do is they'd have those two choices. And the majority of people in our chat, it looks like they said left. So I'm like squinting to try to see the chat. So they said left, you say right. So what would happen is if they said left, then what I would tell them is that the left is actually hackable in 4 seconds.
No way.
It is. So,
why?
Yeah. And so that's what I would then do next. So after you figure out, so you'd be happy, you get your $1 million. By the way, the CEO will pay you.
Oh, great.
So anyhow,
paying myself again.
So the right one is stronger. The left one's weaker. I was going to say leader because lead words. And then I would tell you why. So all of those symbols that you see there, even though it's at least throwing in a symbol, those are called leet letters. Okay. And the computer that doesn't see an @ sign any different than what it's going to see the A. It's not going to see the $ any different than what it's going to see the S, because computers know,
just a pattern.
They know the pattern, right? So when it runs it through, it's going to get that really quick. Wow. And that's Star Wars. And I don't know if you ever heard of that movie.
That's Star Wars?
Yeah. So that is Star Wars.
Oh, right.
So it's a little known movie.
Okay.
So because it's popular, because those are leet letters instead of symbols. Now, I'm going to tell you guys, if you did put like some really weird symbols in there that had nothing to do with just replacing letters, that would be stronger than using leet letters. And another thing is you said length. Star Wars is only 8 letters long, and that 8 or below ends up weakening our passwords quite a bit. And so Eagles one fan forever. It's longer. It doesn't have the symbols, but it's a passphrase. I mean, you might not know that someone's going to say Eagles one fan forever. So that's what makes it stronger. So essentially, this is one of the activities I like to do with students. I find a couple of passwords. I do maybe like to trick people because now they've learned.
Mhm.
Because when any of those quadrants get that wrong, they want to know why they're wrong. And I guarantee you the next time they see a password like that, they're going to be like, wait a minute, let me think
Can't
about
trick
this.
me.
That's right. That's right. So we're taking their background knowledge. We're then teaching them through, experience, and now they're going to become stronger on it. So, and by the way, everyone that said left, you guys also get that $1 million that I'm giving away too.
Great.
So
Go
it's
ahead.
going to be split
Bankrupt
apart.
us.
Yep. All right. So let's go on to another one. I believe I said at some point that I was a stat nerd, right?
Mhm.
So just, kind of keep that in mind. So what I like to do for balance is that, first of all, everyone knows we need better balance. Okay. We talk to students all the time. There is nobody that is just like, hey, I have perfect balance with my technology, or at least if they do say that, they're probably not telling me the truth in that case. So we don't want to just lecture students on balance. We don't want to say, oh, okay, only use this for so many hours a day. Instead, we just want to show students some facts. So this is a little fun thing that I like to do with the students. So you have all these statistics here, and I want you guys to tell me which of these do you think is incorrect? So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And again, you guys can, put it in chat. If you want to try, if you got it wrong, you can try to redeem yourself.
More tricking.
Yes. No tricking. Absolutely no tricking. Never tricked anybody in my life. Don't know what you're talking about. All right. So I'll give you guys a second. Think it through, read the stats. I drink water.
I'm going to be really interested to see what people say about this. I know one of them, I know two of them are true.
Anybody brave enough to take a guess? Feel like I lost people's trust.
All right, audience, come on, put in a number.
Oh, we
There
got
we
5.
go.
Someone's
Okay.
brave. We got 1, a 2. Okay, lots of 1s. Oh, got a 4. Okay. All right. So James, would you like to?
Well,
all of them.
Yeah, so this one was really tough, but I'm torn a little bit between 1 and 5, but not for the reasons people might assume. I actually think 1 might be too low, strangely enough. And 5, I contrast that with what I know about TikTok and some of these other immersive things where people are doing it. So I don't know. I'd be hard pressed to zero in.
Okay. All right. So I will give myself my drum roll, right? So the one that is false is actually number 2. So number 2 is false. And it's just simply because Instagram is still beating TikTok out. So it goes Instagram, Snapchat, and then TikTok. I do agree, James, with what you said about number 1. When I first saw this statistic, I was like, really? Only 67 texts? But it's because they have so many different other means of communication. Right. So like doing Snapchat or something, or Instagram posts and messaging. Did anyone even say number 3? I don't even think anyone said. Everyone's like, yeah, 100 billion hours. That seems right.
Oh, there's a 3.
Oh, there's a 3. There's a 3 there. So because that one actually, I was a little surprised by that. It's a lot of hours, people.
And again, what's curious making about this for educators, the very conversation we're having is exactly the kind of conversation you can have in the classroom with your students, right? This is education through thoughtfulness and reflection about the world.
That's
and
right.
It's really, I think, super important in digital citizenship because we're trying to teach them how to be good digital citizens. They need to understand this stuff.
Yeah, they do. And then also, if you look at these, like some of this stuff is really good. Like 77% of teens get their news from social media. And the teens that we talk to, the best part is they are interested in that news. I mean, they are so much more socially conscious than I think we tend to give young people credit for. And even though it's on social media, a lot of the kids were like, yeah, but it's not like I just believe everything that I read. I'm like, oh, thank you. So we have these good statistics. They get to see they're part of this world. They get to see that it's just more about how are you a citizen within this digital world? Not that what you're doing is necessarily horrible and wrong, but that you belong. And then you can start talking about where do they find balance? How do they do that? All right.
On we go.
Onward we go. That's right.
To C.
So C. All right. So this next one, cyberbullying and digital drama. For this
kind of serious. This is a little more serious.
It is a little more serious. It's a lot more serious. And it's also one that's really near and dear to my heart because when you're in the classroom, you see it, you see what happens, hopefully you stop it. So, you step up when you can step up, but it's important to also teach kids their power of stepping up as well. And these are good conversations to have to make sure that students know that this world is honestly more caring than it is cruel. I think that's a really important thing to point out, but to have those open, honest conversations. And so just a challenge that I like to do is I like to ask kids to go out and find the caring.
Mm.
Find that kindness out there. And if they go online, if they go on all their accounts and they can't find that caring and kindness, then they need to go ahead and put some out there. Say something to a friend, be active online and, just do something that's going to help the world. I have a little Twitter of Ryan Reynolds. And, he's somebody that, like, if you ever watch news, he's really active on his social media accounts. And like, if, I like this picture because this, person, they lost their teddy bear. And that became something that was
Mm.
important to him. So he actually like put out a reward for that. That's kindness, and, it's really cool to see people that are famous or that they're celebrities and they're going out and they're doing this in the world as well.
I think it's also really important. This is as important for adults as it is for
Mhm.
students, for us to find ways to highlight the modeling of that good, caring
That's
behavior,
right.
because unfortunately, the sensitization of media towards the negative and the
Mhm.
extreme, it's a natural part of the news cycle, right?
Yep.
It's the classic story, right? And so I think if we can help our students locate themselves in a place where what they see all the time is not what they assume,
Yep.
just because they see it all the time, it doesn't dominate
That's
their
right.
impression.
Yes.
That's a very subtle but important part of the digital citizenship awareness that we
Mhm.
drive. And throughout our product and our thinking and all the seminars we do, I say to teachers, you are leaving a lasting imprint at a critically formative time.
Yep.
So middle school in particular is
Oh,
that time
goodness.
when kids are going from being supervised and generally in
Mhm.
restricted access, and they're becoming independent
Yep.
actors, right? They are beginning to explore the digital world on their own. And it's when we know that they're also combined with entering adolescence where there's a natural separation. So they're
Mhm.
not looking to teachers and parents for supervision and
Nope.
guidance. They think they don't need it, right?
Yep.
They're naturally psychologically primed to start to separate themselves from those authoritative and expert
Mhm.
figures that have guided them. So they're striving to be independent. And it is such a critical time for us to catch them. And one of the things I love about this product and this curriculum is in that middle school zone, this kind of modeling
Yeah.
can change a child's life.
Yep.
Really, it's
It
it's not
really can.
underestimating. It's
Yep.
it's
Yep.
really, really critically important.
Yes, they definitely need to see that and experience that and the guidance there. So, the nice thing that comes after this is that that
Mm,
defining that talks about your digital identity. And the great part is that if you just get done talking about cyberbullying and drama that's online, you can then go into this and you can your identity. Are you doing some of that bullying? Are you causing some of that drama? So an activity that, first of all, this is great for conversation, just talking to the students about what do they put out there. We talked about the whole public versus private
mhm.
thing. I'm just really not understanding that some things they want to keep private. One of the interesting thoughts, though, when I was speaking to students, they said that sometimes they have two accounts because some students really are wising up to the fact that if they want to keep it private, so they have like a private, these friends get this information, and then they have another account that these public friends get this information. So I thought that was really
Hmm,
interesting. But
that's pretty sophisticated.
yeah, I was impressed. That comes from a 12 and 13-year-old. I'm like, oh, okay, all right. So so they're starting to get it, but it's important for them to understand it more. So one of the activities I like them to do is to look at their different social media. Because there's just so much out there. So, and you can see we have just all sorts of different Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, all of it that's on there. And then we even say other apps because let's face it, I feel like every time I turn around, there's something else that the students use. That it's like they're trying to keep one step ahead of the adults, you know? So,
And this is an example for the audience. Again, not a sales pitch, but this is part of our academic. So we spell it, of course, with an IQ at
yeah.
the end, like we do everything in our brands,
Mhm.
but our academic product, which is
Yeah.
this collection of tools for the classroom. And all of those resources are there for teachers, because I also think it's unfair for us to assume that as educators, we bring our own bias. When we're teaching,
Yeah.
we bring our bias, most of us, as
Mhm.
non-native,
Yeah.
we
It's a
were
big
not
difference.
we were not tech natives. We're not.
Mhm.
So as a result of that, I think our materials can kind of help you locate ways to reach your students with activities and enrichment exercises that are appropriate to them and which are driven off what we know is their view, because we've studied them endlessly. We study people's behavior endlessly.
Yep.
So we know quite a bit about that. And again, if you're interested, just throw your email into the chat, and we'll make sure that you get a code to play.
Yeah, and then they can do this in your
They
classroom.
can do this in your classroom.
Absolutely.
Go do it in your classroom.
So I mean, they can do it in your classroom right
anyway,
here. So yeah.
Right.
So it's just really interesting to have them, just kind of put down, okay, what posts are you doing? Did you tag anything in it? Because that's another thing.
Yep.
Like some students, they will think, okay, well, I'm totally safe online. I watch what I put out there. But then if you're tagged in something and that person has it public and you allow their, your tagged posts to also be public, now your digital footprint is pressed down by somebody else. So it's somebody now walking in your shoes. So
walking in your digital shoes.
In your digital shoes. Yeah, look at what we did there. So that's a really important thing to think about too. So that's why we ask them to talk about those tags, and what's really interesting is when like somebody posts something, so they'll fill this out and they'll say, okay, well, I put this down. And then another friend in the class will be like, well, actually I tagged you in this yesterday, blah, blah, blah. And so I have that down on mine. And so then they start having those discussions there. And then also to talk about what is sensitive information.
Right.
Students, and you can have them go online and you can have them search themselves. When they're under the age of 18, their vital information is a lot more protected.
Right.
And so if someone can get their name and hook that to their age or to things that they like and dislike, that takes us into a whole nother area of stuff that can become dangerous too. So if they're being tagged in all these posts and their identities being developed, there's bad people in this world that will happily take that information and then they can try to connect with the kid and they can act like they know them. So, I mean, there is that scarier side of it too, that we want them to clearly avoid. So having that conversation about what's sensitive information, because they might not think that their age is sensitive information or that things about themselves. So it's really, eye-opening to them to see this and then have that discussion. So
on we go to E.
That's right. So here we are.
Oh, this
educated.
one. Okay, now
So,
I have to admit I've done this one before.
Okay, yep. So this means that no James participation. He is being kicked out of my classroom temporarily.
Yep.
So the rest of you are now my students. So here we have this tuition offer. It is from the Dr. Pepper and Cheez-It. And I want you guys to tell me if this is real or fake. Okay, so take a look at it.
So what is it? Toss it or trust it?
Yes. Do you trust it?
So put in the chat, toss it or trust it.
So do you trust it or toss it?
I'm watching. Into the chat it goes, folks. You got to participate in our session. You can't just sit back and watch all this great production.
We gotta toss it.
Toss. Okay.
Toss. You guys aren't very trusting people.
Natural skeptics.
Ooh. Oh, bunch of exclamation points with that one.
Okay, got to really get rid of it.
Even if it's real.
Wow. Okay. I know it's the Cheez-Its thing. Nobody likes
maybe.
Cheez-Its.
I love Cheez-Its.
Oh, stop it.
They're like lovely cardboard or something to eat.
Okay.
So. Okay. Oh, okay. All right. Okay, we got a reel there. I would Google it. Look at Dr. Pepper and Cheez-It. All right, reel.
Somebody
got a reel.
Got a reel.
All right. I'm not sure. It's all right. We don't have to be positive. Okay. All right. So do I get my drum roll again? Thank you. Okay. So this one is real. So those of you that have the reel, you get $5 million. You're just throwing out money here.
Just stop
so
it.
I am.
Monopoly.
So the people that said that they were going to toss it, they're going to be paying you. So please get a hold of them after this meeting. So this one is real. It is a tuition giveaway that Dr. Pepper does, and apparently partnered with Cheez-It, does every year. And you text it and ta-da. So the people that said that they would go look it up, that's what you want to talk to kids about doing. Because let's face it, the reason why I like this one is because it looks kind of fake.
It does look fake.
And so it gets kids to start thinking that sometimes the things that look fake, well, they might be real. And sometimes the things that look real, they might be really fake. So it's good to find them on both ends of the spectrum, because then they have to start using those investigative skills. And I'm going to tell you, like, once students miss this one, they're always like, okay, what's next? Give me the next one, because I'm not going to miss this one.
Now,
you
for
know?
those of you who end up getting your codes and going through this, when you actually get to this in the tool, what's fascinating
Yeah.
is we've shot a bunch of completely unscripted reaction videos with real students. Everything in our product is not scripted. It's really amazing. And to watch the reactions of students and how they talk about this and what they do, back to that digital discovery, we want to encourage a certain amount of digital vulnerability, asking questions about what is real and what's fake and why, and how it can really impact. And part of that is, and I won't give away the secret sauce, but some of that is we have a methodology, and that methodology has letters called SAVE. And so one of the things that I think about this is really cool is we leave students with an easily identifiable mnemonic, because in psychology, mnemonics work. So it leaves students to something to go through the steps in order to look at their information literacy, their awareness, sourcing, some of the stuff that's really important, because they bring an experience that often has them being too trusting. So I like this audience, because the teachers, you were all really tough. Toss. I mean, nasty group of people, so anyway.
But it's good though. And honestly, like, we have that, not sure at the end. And it's so important for them to understand that that's okay. That is absolutely okay. It's okay to toss it, to trust it, and to be not sure. The important thing is that we learn, so, I mean, everyone's a learner, right? Everyone might not be a winner, but everyone is a learner.
Right.
So I think that's something that, we have to keep as an important. That's just that other one that I'd mentioned earlier about, water being dangerous. And this one is interesting, because when we teach, when we teach them the rules, we teach them stuff like, look for the HTTPS to know if something's credible, a good site. So this one has an HTTPS. So if I do follow the rules, I might not even think further on this. I might be like, okay, that has to be a good site, so it's,
Well, talk about a handoff. Okay. Because so let's just hover here for a second. So we've taught somebody a rule. HTTPS must be a good thing.
That's right.
So let's go back to the next slide. So we're just going to go here. And so let's now look at how each of those 4 quadrants might interpret that rule, because this is really fascinating.
Absolutely.
So our folks down in the bottom left, that highly conscientious, which we call risk breakers, they are going to follow the rule, because they always follow the rule. So if it says HTTPS, it followed the rules, met the rules, must be good. Right. Our risk takers, who are always balancing risk and reward, are kind of look at it, and we could maybe get them to at least stop long enough to reflect on whether or not it's a credible source. And they might do one other thing, but they're not going to do too much. And if they do a superficial test and it looks okay, they're going to keep it. They're going to. The openness to experience group are going to be like, well, of course, nobody drinks water. We all drink wine. No, well, the middle school students won't say that. But as I like to say, I have a GP who says to me, don't drink water. It's bad for your liver, given how much wine you drink. So, and for the teachers, we don't want to ask you that, but, you can put into chat wine, water. Just, go ahead, feel free to play the game with me here. So again, we can go through all these quadrants and understand why rules don't work. And so once we understand that, and this is in summary what we're all about, we can then relate that personal style, the impulses and instincts, and what makes them unique to all parts of the curriculum. So we draw in, and we call this, in our world, we call this style aligned. We think that differentiated instruction in the area of digital citizenship is going to make a difference. I think it is the way we can reach kids more successfully. Absolutely. I think it makes an incredible difference in learning outcomes and in achieving, helping kids keep themselves and their families safer online.